Introduction: the irrational void within. Have you ever poured your heart into someone, always being the one to text first, worrying about their every move, only to find that the harder you try, the further away they drift? Hours of waiting turn into days of silence. You ask yourself what you did wrong, but the truth is often cruel. Sometimes the person you love the most is the one who ignores you the most. This doesn't necessarily mean they have stopped loving you. Rather, it is because human nature is inherently contradictory. This neglect often creates a kind of emotional black hole. You try to fill it with enthusiasm, but the more concern you pour in, the more you feel your energy being drained. Stoic philosophy points out that your pain does not stem from the other person's silence, but from your intense expectation that what I give must be returned in equal measure. We often view love as a fair contract, but the human mind does not operate like a spreadsheet. When you are ignored, it is actually an invitation to observe your own dependency. We will look deep into this paradox to show that being ignored is not an end, but the beginning of a new internal strength. 1. The paradox of familiarity, when love becomes taken for granted. This psychological phenomenon, often referred to as hedonic adaptation, is the silent killer of intimacy. It numbs our senses to the very joy that once defined our existence. We begin to treat our partners like a piece of furniture in a room. We know it's there, so we stop looking at it. But a human soul is not a static object. When we fall into the trap of certainty, we trade the vibrancy of the present for the lethargy of habit. We forget that love is not a destination we reach, but a fire that requires a constant supply of oxygen to stay alive. Marcus Aurelius's teachings on impermanence weren't meant to breed fear, but to inspire an active, daily renewal of appreciation. He understood that clarity is the byproduct of realizing fragility. By acknowledging that every goodbye in the morning could be the final one, we strip away the dullness of routine. We stop possessing the person and start cherishing them. Think of the car analogy one last time. A vehicle doesn't break down overnight. It is the result of accumulated rust and missed maintenance. Emotional neglect works the same way. It is a slow, silent decay born from the arrogant belief that effort is no longer required once the prize is won. To be a Stoic in love is to be an eternal student of your partner, recognizing that they are a changing, breathing individual who deserves to be rediscovered every single day. Don't let the comfort of their presence become the catalyst for their eventual absence. Real strength lies in the discipline of never letting the new car smell of a relationship fade from your heart. 2. Silence, a different language of love. In our hyper-connected era, we've been conditioned to believe that silence is a synonym for absence. We crave the constant ping of a notification as a hit of dopamine, a temporary confirmation that we still matter. But this is a fragile way to live. The Stoic understands that true connection doesn't require a constant broadcast. If you are constantly demanding words, you are often not seeking love. You are seeking a remedy for your own internal noise. When Epictetus spoke about the importance of using our 2 ears and 1 mouth in proportion, he wasn't just talking about listening to spoken words. He was talking about observing reality. If your partner is the type to handle the heavy lifting of life, fixing what is broken, showing up during a crisis, or simply sitting in the same room as you without the need for small talk, they are communicating a profound level of commitment. This is high-resolution silence. It is the rare ability to be alone together. We must learn to distinguish between the silence of indifference and the silence of intimacy. Indifference is a wall. Intimacy is a shared breath. If you interpret every quiet moment as a sign of fading affection, you are essentially torturing yourself with your own impressions. Stoicism calls us to be unshakable. By accepting silence as a valid, even noble dialect of love, you stop being a victim of your partner's communication style and start becoming a master of your own perspective. True love doesn't always need to roar. Often, it is the quiet, steady rhythm of a person standing firmly by your side, choosing to stay. 3. The test of neglect and internal strength. This cold wind you feel is actually the sound of your own ego gasping for air. We have been conditioned to believe that our existence is only valid if it is reflected back to us through someone else's constant attention. But the Stoic understands that your worth is a constant, not a variable. It does not fluctuate based on a read receipt or a delayed notification. When you find yourself obsessively checking your phone, you are essentially auditioning for your own life, waiting for someone else to tell you if you've got the part. Stop the audition. Every moment of neglect from another is a gift of time for yourself. It is a prompt to strengthen your inner citadel. Instead of pouring your energy into the why of their silence, which is a variable outside your control, pour it into the what of your character. Are you someone who crumbles under the weight of a quiet phone? Or are you someone whose peace is so deeply rooted that it remains undisturbed by the whims of others? There is a profound, quiet dignity in refusing to be a victim of someone else's communication style. By choosing not to spiral into anxiety, you are declaring that your emotional state is sovereign territory. This isn't about playing hard to get. It's about being hard to break. The more you practice this, the more you realize that the most attractive thing about you isn't your availability or your eagerness. It is your unshakable self-possession. You win the psychological game not by finally getting a reply, but by reaching the point where you no longer need one to feel whole. 4. Stop chasing what is running away. Chasing is a form of spiritual begging. When you pursue someone with desperation, you are essentially broadcasting that you are not enough on your own. You are telling them, and yourself, that your happiness is a debt they are required to pay. This creates an immense, suffocating weight that no healthy relationship can sustain. In the Stoic view, this is a violation of the dichotomy of control. You are trying to force a result that resides in the heart of another, which is a territory you can never occupy. The law of reversed effort applies here perfectly. The more you frantically grasp for water, the faster it slips through your fingers. But when you keep your hands still and open, the water remains. By withdrawing your pursuit, you create a meaningful absence. You allow the other person to encounter the reality of life without you, which is the only way they can truly choose to be with you. Remember, love is not a trophy to be captured. It is a resonance to be shared. When you stop being the storm and start being the mountain, you regain your emotional gravity. You become the center of your own universe again. This isn't a tactic to manipulate them into coming back. It is a fundamental reclamation of your soul. When you finally unclench your fist, you realize that true power lies in the open hand, not the grasping one. You are no longer a satellite orbiting their whims. You are a sun, radiating your own light regardless of who chooses to bask in it. 5. The greatest love is the love for yourself. We often treat our own hearts like a vacant house, waiting for a tenant to move in and give it life. But if you don't find the home beautiful when it is empty, you will always be a desperate landlord, willing to accept any guest, no matter how toxic, just to avoid the silence. Stoicism teaches us that the quality of your life is determined by the quality of your internal dialogue. When you become your own best friend, you no longer fear the quiet. You welcome it as a chance to reconnect with your own integrity. This is the ultimate form of self-sufficiency. When you stop viewing yourself as a fragment searching for completion, you cease being a beggar for affection. You enter relationships not as a needy soul seeking a cure for loneliness, but as a whole person offering a surplus of joy. You move from a state of, I need you to be okay, to, I am okay, and I choose to share my life with you. In this state of wholeness, another person's neglect is no longer a catastrophe. It is simply a piece of data about their state of mind, not a verdict on your worth. You realize that your value was never on the table for negotiation. By anchoring your love in your own character, you become a sun that radiates light regardless of who is watching. You are no longer searching for someone to save you, because you have finally realized that you are the hero you've been waiting for. This is not the end of love. It is the beginning of a love that can never be taken away. 6. Distinguishing performative strength from inner strength. In our journey toward self-mastery, we must learn to distinguish between performative strength and inner strength. Performative strength is loud. It is a mask we wear to convince the world, and often ourselves, that we are unaffected. It is the sharp retort, the seen notification left intentionally to hurt, or the calculated social media post designed to show how fine we are. This is not strength. It is a reactionary defense mechanism. It is still a dance performed for an audience, which means you are still tethered to their perception. If your strength requires someone else to witness it to be real, it isn't strength. It's a performance. Real inner strength, conversely, is a quiet, underground current. It has no interest in winning the silence or proving a point. It is the ability to remain emotionally stationary while the world around you is in flux. A person with inner strength doesn't feel the need to broadcast their indifference because they are actually, fundamentally, at peace. They understand that their value is not a topic up for debate or a prize to be won in a psychological tug-of-war. This is the shift from acting to being. When you possess inner strength, silence from a loved one doesn't feel like a challenge you need to overcome with a better move. Instead, it becomes a space where you simply exist, undisturbed. You realize that performative toughness is exhausting because it requires constant maintenance, whereas inner peace is effortless because it is rooted in the truth of your own self-worth. You don't need to show them you are strong. You simply need to be whole. 7. The open loop mechanism and mirroring. Social interaction is essentially a series of loops. When someone speaks, acts, or even ignores you, they are initiating a loop and expecting you to close it with a reaction. Your reaction, whether it's a plea for attention or an angry outburst, completes the cycle and confirms that their behavior had an impact. It gives them the data they need to understand your boundaries and your triggers. But when you choose the Stoic path of non-reaction, you leave that loop open. An open loop creates a psychological vacuum. When you refuse to provide the expected reaction, the other person is suddenly left alone with their own behavior. Your silence acts as a perfect, unyielding mirror. Without your reaction to distract them, they are forced to see their own coldness, their own games, or their own indifference reflected back at them. In the absence of your noise, the only thing they can hear is the echo of their own actions. Often people who use silence as a weapon are unsettled when that weapon meets a shield of calm. It disrupts their sense of control and forces them to face the reality of who they are being. More importantly, leaving the loop open protects your internal map. Every time you react emotionally to neglect, you are handing over a map of your soul, showing exactly where you are vulnerable and how you can be manipulated. By maintaining your equanimity, you stay unreadable. You become a fortress with no visible cracks. This isn't about being cold. It's about being sovereign. You are declaring that your internal state is a restricted zone that cannot be entered without your permission. By not closing their loop, you are writing your own script, one where your peace is the only priority. Stoic resilience amidst life's turbulence. This journey is not about becoming a cold, unfeeling statue. It is about becoming a sovereign of your own internal world. Stoicism teaches us that the external weather of our relationships will always be unpredictable. People will change, feelings will shift, and silence will inevitably occur. But while you cannot control the wind, you are the absolute master of your own sail. You are the only architect of your peace. When someone pulls away, they are simply returning to the world what was never truly yours to keep. What remains is the only thing that ever mattered: your character and your ability to stand upright in the storm. True resilience is the daily practice of realigning your soul with reality. It is the realization that you are not a fragment in search of a whole, but a whole entity capable of radiating its own light. This path doesn't build walls to keep others out. It builds a foundation so solid that you aren't crushed when they walk away. Every time you choose equanimity over anxiety, every time you sit with your loneliness instead of running from it, you are digging out the most authentic version of yourself. You are becoming a person who no longer survives life's turbulence, but thrives within it, because your happiness has finally found its permanent home within you. If this message resonated with you, remember that the journey to an unshakable life begins with a single choice: the choice to master yourself. Don't let the noise of the world drown out your inner peace. Join our community by subscribing to Stoic Journey and hitting the bell icon. Together, let's build an inner citadel that no storm can break. What was your silent victory today? Let us know in the comments below.